Hello, I'm Jason. I'm the senior editor at But Why Though and the producer of But Why Though, the podcast.
And I'm Prabjot Vance, and I also am a contributing film critic, writer at But Why Though, among other places. Yeah, and then yeah,
We're both pretty fresh out of just having seen the latest Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, and we've got some dramatically different feelings about this movie. I get the feeling. But before we go too deep into it, what's just like your initial reaction to having literally an hour or so ago walked out of the theater?
yeah, I hated this movie. So, sorry to be a party pooper, but no, yes, I thoroughly unenjoyed my time with this movie. Yeah, I wanted to find things to like about it. There are very small moments that I like about this movie, but overall, just a very slogging, uninspired, kind of soulless film for me, film going experience for me. That's the words that jump at me when I get out of the movie theater with this one.
Yeah, I couldn't feel more differently. I thought the movie was great. I had a great time. It's always hard when you're at like a press screening and a fan screening and everyone feels really excited. Everyone's wearing their costumes, and there was a
Yeah.
person in the parking lot that literally had like an Ecto 1 Tesla. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
hard often, but I'm a big fan of the last movie of Afterlife, the first of these like legasequel movies in the Ghostbuster franchise. I really like Afterlife, so I was predisposed to like this a little bit more than maybe the average person. And
Mhm.
I had a good time. I thought that it's a movie that understands the spirit of what a Ghostbusters movie, like what Ghostbusters is, that we enjoy about it as a popular culture. And I mean, it doesn't star Bill Murray, so I automatically like it more than the original. But we can get into that in a sec. So, before we go too far into like our deeper feelings and why we feel the way we do about the movie, what were you anticipating going into it? What's your like your own background with Ghostbusters?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Ghostbusters fan. Like, I don't worship the franchise or anything like that. But I do enjoy. I was a fan of the first movie, and I think what I liked about Ghostbusters was actually not even the whole structure or frame surrounding just like the whole ghost hunting or ghost busting. That wasn't even my favorite part of the first movie. I liked that what the like my enjoyment of it came from how it uses the structure of the whole ghost bunting to be at its core a comedy movie to make be like R-rated raunchier type of comedy movie that's what I liked about it. And then yeah, and then with Afterlife they kind of did away with the whole comedy and became this kind of like children oriented PG-13 action adventure movie that's like coasting or relying on the nostalgia of it, and it's totally different compared to the first movie. It's steeped in the kind of the mythology of it. And then yeah, like I personally, I like you mentioned yourself, like I'm not a huge fan. I also didn't enjoy Afterlife, I'm sorry to say. But yeah, coming from that movie, I coming into this one, Frozen Empire, I kind of expected the same. I really, at this moment, my mind is really, I feel like Ghostbusters is a dying franchise. It's pretty much dead, and they're kind of doing their best to kind of inject life into a dead franchise. I know, and ironically, it's a franchise about ghosts and all of that. So they kind of resurrecting the dead body of the franchise here.
Yeah, see, part of what I enjoyed about Afterlife and about Frozen Empire is that it's PG-13, but it does what most PG-13 movies don't do, in my opinion, these days, where it stars younger cast, it stars actual teenagers, but they feel like they're dealing with adult emotions and feel like they have adult consequences to their adult problems. It's even more so in Frozen Empire here. And they have curse words in this movie. Most PG-13 comedies don't drop the number of curse words and the ways that they use them that just to me made it the tone of the humor and the tone of the emotional arc of the different characters just it doesn't strike me as the way that kids movies or dumbed down PG-13 movies tend to feel, which was a part of both of these movies that I think is actually why I like them from the comedy side of it. My background with the franchise as a whole, I've honestly my real first exposure to Ghostbusters was Luigi's Mansion and being obsessed with that as a kid.
Yeah,
And
that was
honestly,
a
like
big
having
cube
more of a
classic.
reference point to Ghostbusters being about a vacuum cleaner than it being about proton packs. I
Yeah, yeah.
saw the movie a bunch of times as a kid, but just like all of what it was as an actual movie was overridden by my feelings and attachment to Luigi's Mansion, which obviously is largely inspired by Ghostbusters. As an adult rewatching Ghostbusters, it's one of those movies that like I love the idea of Ghostbusters. It's not like in my like upper echelons of franchises necessarily, but I think it's a super cool idea and it's awesome that it's a franchise that exists and that a lot of people have nostalgia for. I don't think that the original movie is particularly good. Like I kind of said before, I really don't like Bill Murray as an actor, as a comedian. I can't stand the whole 80s and 90s leading man thing of how you have to be mean to be a good character. It's like
I
I've
bet.
talked about this
What
on
do you
the
mean?
podcast before. Like
I base my whole personality off of it. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
like right, like it's like it's one of those things that just I it's a I can't stand it. Tom Hanks in 80s and 90s movies drives me crazy too. Same reason. Even if I like more recent Tom Hanks a little bit better. But it's so my going into Frozen Empire, like I said, I really liked Afterlife. That movie strikes all of the right spots for me comedically and tone wise. And here to get into like more of the in-depth feeling, we'll stay spoiler free as we talk about
Mhm.
it, but one of the things that immediately made me feel it like this was going to be a good time was that as soon as the movie has two cold opens, again, no pun intended. The second and the pacing of this movie is not the greatest. That's it is one of its big struggles to me too. But the second cold open, you're in the Ecto one with the Spangler family, and you have a good 7 or whatever minute cold open where you skip all of the exposition that you need to understand what happened from the first to the second movie, and you just get a full like this is the comedy, this is what each of these four characters' growth is going to be about from the beginning to the end, and every single time they have a reference to a previous movie or there's a ton of like meta jokes going on. I just kept feeling like they already established the tone, and now these characters are making jokes inside that tone, as opposed to what often in movies like this feels to me more like the we're gonna be ogling at that Easter egg and we're gonna make you go, hey, hey, see? Like I just didn't get that from this the way that I do so often in other franchisee rebooty 700th leg in a
Mhm.
long franchise movies. So I was pretty turned on to the tone from the start and while it does lag a little bit as it goes on, and while the final act kind of suffers from the same problem many Ghostbusters final acts do, because this movie totally lacks some of the bigger set pieces like the originals have. In spite of that, I just had a good time. I just thought it was funny, and I liked going through all of the arcs that the many too many sometimes characters had.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, yeah, you could take a look at the movie that way. For me, I mean, if I had to tagline it, I would say, and I kind of made the joke earlier before, and I said, for a film about ghosts and the afterlife, it feels so ironically lifeless to me, this movie. And the reason it is because, and it's the same issues that I had with Afterlife persist into this movie for me, is where like I said, mentioned, like for me, the original Ghostbusters, the best part of it was the comedy itself, like the frame it uses to make jokes, to make comedy, to build its characters up. right? And it never took itself super seriously. These movies take the mythology so seriously and kind of hold it at this high pedestal, and proton packs and the traps and like where the mythology of the ghosts and everything. It kind of holds it to a big pedestal. And so yeah, to your point, where this movie doesn't rely on a lot of the nostalgia baiting, that was Afterlife for me, where it was, latching onto the body of nostalgia, it's milking the nostalgia cow.
Which ironically, it does that a ton in Afterlife, but honestly, I thought it was even more
Yeah.
successful then.
Yeah, so to me, it was just like a sugar-coated slop of nostalgia. The Afterlife, just reveres it in such an uber serious manner. The first movie, whereas the first movie itself doesn't even take itself seriously. This movie, yes, there's not much nostalgia baiting, but where it goes from the milking the cow, it puts itself in a blender of just tired characterizations, very cliche type of storytelling. And it just kind of it was a slog to get through really for me. And a lot of these characters, I gotta say, really irked me. I mean, a lot of these characters do not evolve past just the quirks they are, right? You have the individual who's the sciencey nerd, and that's the amalgamation of their character and the arc, and really their arcs that they go through are so thin to me. I mean, these characters don't really switch. And then you have Phil Wolfhard's character who literally is stagnant and has no change whatsoever for me. And then you have like they bring in the cast of the old Ghostbusters, the lifeless, the bodies of Bill Murray, Aykroyd, and then Ernie Hudson, and they bring them there, and all they do is just ogle at the screen and make the same tired jokes again and again, and it just really at a point it just starts to irk me, and it gets so tiresome as a result. And yeah, I mean, part of me actually liked how this movie was leaning into being more funny and kind of leaning on the jokes of its predecessors, especially the first Ghostbusters and the second Ghostbusters. But it's ironic and it really funny to me that its attempts at humor were so missed for me. A lot of the time, they really missed for me, especially moments with Aykroyd and Patton Oswalt really kind of hit the mark for me. I did like Kumail. I thought some moments of him was really good, but again, relying on the self-referential humor, quirking, keeping constantly deconstructing their own jokes that they're making, and then kind of making it last so long. It just at a point, to me, this movie just feels like an amalgamation of just lifeless board of directors kind of making this movie and kind of picking and choosing where to add jokes. And I really feel like we're at a point where this franchise really I really believe like needs to die. Like I just think there's nothing left. There's no juice left. There's no the proton packs are dead. Let's take it. I'm over it at this point. Yeah. So yeah, totally opposite reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I'm in the vast minority as someone who enjoyed this movie. I've seen the reviews that other than just mine, but like one thing we definitely clearly agree on is that there's like way too much exposition going on. There's way too much trying to techno babble our way through why everything is happening and why it's
Mhm.
so important, and like explain the whole backstory of the ghost for like 12 minutes straight. And the difference though is that I thought that Patton Oswalt was funny, and so I thought it was totally tolerable getting through that really long and what would have otherwise probably been painful to me exposition dump had he not made me laugh
Yeah. It
every
just
four lines.
yeah, it's just that the movie, like the jokes that do work are in service of characters who are so thinly written, right? You have Paul Rudd's character who's going through, oh, I'm the, outsider father who needs to get accepted by his family, and that's the majority of his arc, and there's like three scenes to it, and then at the end of the movie, I'm not going to give it away, but it kind of satisfies itself in such a eye-rolling fashion. And then you have I forget the character's name, but the character who is more science oriented, the daughter of the family,
Phoebe.
her yeah Phoebe, yeah, her arc is just all about like she's just a stereotype, like she's a caricature who like just I'm the sciencey type, I know how selenium works and the rod coils and electroconductance and all of that,
Right.
and tries to explain herself out of a situation, and oh, let's make everything out of brass so we can trap everything. And And her arc is just about, finding, not being looked down upon for her age and finding connection. And then you have Finn Wolfhard's character, who, to be honest, what is his arc? I mean, he's just there. He's just there,
He wants to
and
be treated like an adult. To me,
yeah,
the thing is that
same
you're
thing as his
right.
sister. Yeah,
They're very thinly conceived characters because there's I can't one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 11 who aren't even in this poster behind me characters in this movie. That's too many for how long this is and how half of them were basically just cameos in the last movie, if they were even in it. So I wish that certain people had more time. I wish that a lot of them. There's actually there's even a couple other characters that we won't even mention, and Kumal, who's not in this poster either. It actually
yeah.
grew on me substantially over the course of the movie too.
I think
But
he was
like,
the best part of the movie, to be
yeah,
honest.
he started off by like being
The,
annoying at first just
the
because I was
Kamal
like,
shtick, yeah.
what is your shtick here? But once I clicked with what the shtick was, I thought it was pretty good and he was funny. But I'm like, there's 13 characters in this movie. There's not enough time to do everything. But instead of trying to have the characters grow themselves, the movie to me is more about them as a collective growing to understand the other characters. And so I'm a sucker for that kind of thing, I guess, in part. But like, if Phoebe's whole arc is that she isn't allowed to be a Ghostbuster anymore and she feels sad and also she has a crush on a ghost, like it's not it doesn't bother me that she doesn't necessarily grow in that for herself because every other person around her is doing the growth about her character. And same with, with Paul Rudd's character, same with um basically all of the members of the Spengler family particularly. And so I definitely concede that they're not necessarily growing themselves, but I enjoy watching the way that as a unit they're growing. And to me, that's a big part of that whole the spirit of what Ghostbusters is and why we have this cultural mythology of what Ghostbusters is, even if it's not actually what it is when you watch an individual movie,
Yeah,
because
I was just about to say,
like
yeah.
it's ultimately like I think about Ghostbusters, I think about how it's a team of people with cool gadgets living in a firehouse, busting ghosts with their cool car. And like at the end of the day, it's this idea of a group of people. And so doing cool things. And so when I watch that happen in
Yeah.
this movie, it works for me because
Yeah.
I have that cool sense going into it already. And
Yeah.
then, they're growing as a unit and
Yeah.
I wish that unit didn't include Bill Murray, but whatever.
I will stand for this Bill Murray slander. Okay, no.
I mean, I think we definitely at least agree that in this movie, he basically looks like he's drunk the entire time and like
I actually
made
made the
like had too much screen time.
I made the joke. I made the same exact joke with my friend when I took to the press screening. Whereas when they're walking in the firehouse and he has the glasses on, I'm like, at this scene, like he is totally out of it,
Right.
and he's walking.
He has
Yeah,
his first scene is funny.
yeah. It's a callback to what he was doing in the first Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah.
The questions. I know you're saying like the thin characterizations wouldn't be such a big issue for me because definitely the type of movie it's trying to be. It's just that when those beats happen, the where the change and that like growth happens, they're all so manufactured for me. They happen exactly at the precise moment. They're forced into happening at these certain moments, and they don't ever feel organic for me, right? It's just the film itself is just trying to cash in or just make sure that everything happens steadily, and as a result, like you don't really feel that kind of gusto with Ghostbusters. And again, like the reason why I love Ghostbusters, I don't love it, but I enjoy the first one is because it's a comedy at heart. It's trying to be a comedy. It's trying to make you laugh. It's just using the frame of this type of supernatural horror, these gadgets to make you laugh. And then this
Right.
movie kind of reverts that Afterlife, do that. It becomes about the mythology. It becomes about that. And to be honest, it all of that is ridiculous to me. Like it's just supposed to be this dumb throwaway, like fun gadgetry, and this movie takes itself way too seriously. And then again, the whole mythology about the big bad who's causing all the frozen stuff. I mean, so ham-fisted and kind of rushed and manufactured. And like for example, like the text, like I'll give you an example. It also just feels kind of like cobbled together from various pieces. Like for example, and obviously most audiences won't know this is because it's just because of my background, like in South Asia, I know it is that like the languages and all of that, and in the film, are like Arabic or like ancient text Arabic, but then you have Kunal Nanjiani's character who speaks Urdu and and speaking Urdu, and it's like they're just like, okay, yeah, it's Arab world, but he's Pakistani, it's fine, even though it's like completely opposite parts of the world. It's like it's
Yeah.
fine, like I'm not really holding that against the movie, but it's like the mythology of it is so cobbled together, and then the fact that the movie takes it that much more seriously, it just like it kind of dumbfounds me as well. It's like, okay,
Right.
how serious are we going to invest ourselves into this kind of like this stupid mythology, right? The whole point of Ghostbusters was it uses the frame of this to make fun at itself and make fun of all these wacky scenarios. Yeah, and so that's essentially what I held with. And then all even when the film does do callbacks, I mean, I was just like, all I could do is roll my head. I mean, you even have the movie even ends in typical Ghostbusters fashion. Even the first one with interviewing and all of that and all of that. So yeah, it's just to me, like even when you do have the callbacks to the Ghostbusters so phoned in, just like the characters, just like everything. It's just at this point, I feel like please keep Ghostbusters' body trapped in that box where you keep the ghost and don't let it out. Please, at this point.
Yeah, I certainly I could definitely do without the Orientalism that all of these movies continue to
Yeah.
carry with them for no good reason. I mean, we all forget that the original Ghostbusters plot is about Gozer because it's not interesting, it's forgettable, and it's dumb. So like
Yeah.
why do they keep still doing it? Who knows? But does busting make you feel good?
Busting makes me feel not good, I would have to say. No, I'm up. This one's a big thumbs down for me, I gotta say. Save the time. Just watch the original Ghostbusters again, or better not watch a better family-friendly oriented action adventure movie. There's a lot out there.
Go go play Luigi's Mansion.
That's also GameCube Legend. I love that game. That was one of the first games I had for the GameCube, and I loved it. That game terrified me as a kid. It really,
Oh
really
yeah.
scared me. The game
Yeah,
terrified me.
absolutely. Yeah, well, I guess you're feeling pretty frozen on Frozen Empire. I'm feeling pretty Firemaster hot on it. We'll just disagree. What a oh well.
Yeah,
I
one. Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm the grumpy Siskel to your happy Ebert right now. So
yeah, but I also know, like I said, I am aware that I am not exactly the majority opinion on this movie, but we're recording this before anybody has seen it in the public yet. I hope that folks go out there, and whether you're a fan of the originals, a fan of Afterlife, or you just want to go check out one of the few movies that's been in theaters so far this year with any buzz behind it, I hope it goes well for you, and you'll let us know out there on whatever social media platforms are still alive at this point, or hit us up in the But Why Though Discord. Tell me why I'm dumb. Tell us why we're both wrong somehow. I don't know. I just hope that people have a good time. Uh, where can folks find you on the internet and at But Why Though generally?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Instagram at my name, Prabjot Bands 96. And I write for a bunch of publications, including But Why Though, for Tilt Magazine, Range Magazine, Our Culture Magazine. So a bunch of stuff I'm writing for, contributing to them. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter at Prabjot Bands 96. And yeah, I'm really happy. I'm excited to see how people are gonna hate my opinion and then say I'm wrong and I'm grumpy and pretentious for for hating Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm ready. I'm excited.
I don't know. I think I'm more likely to get the hate for saying that at the end of our review on butwhythough.net, I said, when people ask me when did the Ghostbusters movie come out, I'm going to tell them sincerely that they came out in 2021 and 2024. So I hope I think I'm going to catch more heat for that one.
No, more heat,
But
more heat. more heat for the Bill Murray blasphemy.
Yeah, more heat for the Firemaster over here. Um, catch me _flatter_you and catch but why though PC. See y'all later.